Okay, so Chazi is driving to Jerusalem, and he has nothing better to do than to talk to me. And so, while he's driving, I am going to stream a little bit. And there's a lot to talk about. I just got back from. Hello, Teo. I just got back from uh, Minnesota, and let's make this small enough. Let's show pictures. I showed this picture already tonight during my very interesting discussion with someone whose name, our dear friend Jonathan. But so this was me, CW, Garth, and two people who shall not be named because I don't know if they want to be named. I hope they don't mind me. Well, I don't think they mind me sharing the picture to the entire internet. But we had a very nice discussion, very nice evening. First, we went for Ethiopian food, and then we went to some. It's like a bakery. That Perkins. That's what its name was. Perkins, I think. Which is kind of like Caro's, but for the Midwest, I guess. Um, yeah, it was fun. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. The wedding was pretty cool. I posted one wedding picture on my where's that wedding picture? There is the wedding cake, which was cute, very cute. And so there we go. So that was my trip. Donald Trump, our good friend, seems to be hitting the ground running. Can you get pancakes at midnight there? Yes, you can. Yes, you definitely can. They do. They serve eggs and pancakes, and I think steak and stuff too. It's kind of like IHOP ish, Denny's ish. I got wild berry pie a la mode and a cranberry oatmeal cookie. None of which was kosher. Well, the vanilla ice cream was probably kosher. America is a great country. This is true. America is a great country. Yeah, our new Secretary of Defense. Wow. Donald Trump is. Marco Rubio for Secretary of State. I don't think that's bad. Some people, like Kyle Kalinske, were using it as an excuse to complain. I don't see a really good reason to complain about that. Let's see, who are Trump nominees? Here's what the Hill has to say about Trump nominees. Did you see Elon is heading the Department of Government Efficiency? Yeah. The president can't create a new department. without a law being passed, but he can definitely create advisory committees in the White House as he wishes. So, and yes, so Vivek Ramaswamy and and Elon Musk are going to be heading for that. I actually was kind of hoping, Chazi, how you doing, Chazi?
Praise the Lord.
So CW,
He's back.
kind of. While I was visiting him, he gave me presents. This is 2 krachim of Mossad Harav Cook's collected works of the Rav. Unfortunately, Shiurim Lezecher Abba only has, I only have Kerech Bet, and Avodat Yom HaKippurim, I tried reading it, and like you, as far as like I couldn't get very far, but it seems incredibly brisker, like diukim on the Rambam and Ashkenazi liturgy, and I'm like, I may not be the correct person to do justice to these 2 krachim of Harav Yosef Dov, because they have to change his name from Yosef Ber to Yosef Dov, Halevi Soloveitchik. So, am I sending this to you in Israel, or am I sending it to Yosef in the East Coast?
Send to Yosef because I have him.
You already have them?
Yeah.
So we could do a chavrusa.
A chavruta. Could do a chavruta. Right now, I'm feeling really bad that I've been abandoning my the Noahites.
You have been abandoning the Noachites. Another thing we could do a chavruta on is Sheva Mitzvot Hashem.
Sheva Mitzvot Hashem. That is true. We could do a reading in that. My goal was, once the dust settles in the current dust in my life settles, to get back to finishing the Rambam, the 8 chapters of the Rambam. We're in the middle, and then doing. I was also telling Antonio about this. Doing a review of Shema and Shemona Esrei on each one of the individual prayers, and after that, I'm down to do many things.
So Ben hasn't officially said anything as to the reason why he's been busy. So I'm not going to say anything as to why he's been busy, but Ben has been busy. And yeah, I don't know when he will be back to do shiurim. Yeah.
I was telling Gilad, who was a little frustrated in me. We were supposed to have a conversation, and I had to. My kid got sick. I had to cancel it. But he wanted to continue our monthly conversations. But yeah, and this relates to the Ben thing. It's life sometimes kicks in, and it's a very, very busy time right now. I bit off a little more than I could chew, but I think that's still healthy in a certain way to get in over your head a little.
Yeah. I've decided I kind of plan on biting off more than I can chew, and then eventually deciding, okay, this is more than I've been able to chew.
Yeah, but I look at it as being also like, if you rise to the occasion, you still get to challenge oneself, but it's just like the move. We're like living in this tiny little place right now with like 1 bathroom with my kids, so that's been like very difficult, and just overseeing the construction of like my brother's house, my house, while still working, while opening up like another firm in Tel Aviv, it's just been like a lot. It's all great. Katonti mikol chasadim. I'm very, very blessed. But yeah, and honestly, what's killing me is that like it's by far the I mean, this period right now, I haven't learned like any Torah. It's very, very hard.
You haven't learned any Torah?
Obviously, there's Shabbat and there's talking and there's ideas, but just like my general, like really like sitting down at night, giving like a nice hour to just, you know, think about an idea, review it. It's just, I don't have time for that right now. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
I completely understand. I mean, you were, after all, Hagaon.
This makes me, this, I'm going to say something that might upset you.
Yeah.
But that's not news. Just with regards to the Haredim,
Yeah.
right? We know like the term ultra-Orthodox, and Haredim is the fearers, the God-fearers. So I'm really thinking about like a breakdown of this demographic in Israel, and I look at there's like around a million ultra-Orthodox in Israel.
Yeah.
The breakdown is roughly 500,000 Lithuanians.
Mhm.
Okay. Then there is another 250,000. These are nice, clean, round numbers, but like 250,000 Sephardic Haredim, who basically fall in line with the Lithuanians, unfortunately, just because they have such a beautiful, rich tradition. And then you have the Hasidim, right? Chabad and others, which are another 250, but they're their own brand, really. And there does seem to be, and the more Haredim I've been trying to talk to over the last few months, that while they see me as Jewish, they don't see me as Am Yisrael.
They don't see you as a Ben Torah.
Not as a Ben Torah. This I think you'd agree with. Is like the nation of Israel. The nation of Israel comprises more than just the Torah learners, right? And they'll tell me we are the tribe of Levite, and they're telling that to me, a Levite, right? They're telling me like we are the tribe of Levite now, and I'm putting aside the state of Israel as it currently is. Okay. In any future and in our past, there were warriors, there were bakers, there was Joshua, right? Not everyone was learning all the time. And the mindset that like, no, this is it. And like, yes, Chazi, you're Jewish, but like, you're not the people. You're not like the biblical people that God was talking about. I don't know if that ideology could like be played with, because it's just, it's even, and I think you recognize this, even the person that like is a Baal Tshuva into a Haredi community, they're very happy that like, great that you know, took your life more seriously and you became Baal Tshuva. You still can't marry my daughter though. Like, you're still not the real thing, because like, that's just this community. And I have like a hard time with that. And I'll just go on one little thing over here, which I think, you know what? Yeah. There's, as you know, prophecy has left us, right? And that's a very big problem, right? Because we are the I mean, it's not exclusively us, but obviously the nation, the prophets.
Mhm.
And we're told that after, you know, the destruction, a little beforehand, prophecy leaves us. Now, what we're also interestingly told is that when prophecy leaves us, so does the inclination for idol worship, as you know. And the reason this leaves is because what animates prophecy and what animates idol worship is the imagination, koach hamedameh, as Maimonides and others talk about. And you can see this also in Plato. There's a sense where, like, you know, it's less about the senses, it's more about, like, you know, what I could conceive of. And there's like, you know, they left the artist aside. We move into this place of like this very, very heady Torah. And after 2,000 years, you've heard this part before, but like we've lost the ability to imagine, and we don't even know what it's like anymore to take a concept and an idea and try to compress it. And we are living in a world today where like these ideas are all heady, and we're living in this exile version of Judaism, whether it's the Haredim or whether it's even the modern Orthodox, where if we don't realize that we have to allow forces from the outside in a certain way to the imagination, where we could move on to like a next stage. And like groups doesn't see me as Am Yisrael, it's going to be very hard for them to imagine any greater.
So, first of all, Grim Grizz has kind of sort of joined us, and he's staring at your crotch, and he says he loves you.
I love you.
Colonymous Eliezer says, "Ha, is this an Israeli Haredi phenomenon only? Bro, is this specifically an Israeli thing? This doesn't really map onto the Haredim in the U.S."
It's a good question. It came up, the context is it has to do with also serving in the army, like in Israel right now. So that's like a very hot political thing. And it's less about like, I need you to serve. It's more about if the reason you're not serving is because you don't see it as a value, that's sort of the problem. Because what about the Jewish soldiers throughout all of Jewish history? Like if Moses says, now we attack, you're like, well, I'm learning right now. It's almost like, and again, this isn't a generalization, but there's some of these, and I don't blame the rabbis, but you ask them, like, did you hear about what happened? Like, we killed Nasrallah. They'll be like, no, I have no idea what happened. What happened for me this week is I finished this tractate. And I don't think like that mindset doesn't allow you to be like that doesn't allow you to be an Or LaGoyim, and that doesn't allow you to be Kedoshim to you. Kedoshim to you doesn't mean only learning text. All day long.
You've been droiding for the last.
It is an embodied living of.
Chazi, you might want to just turn off your camera. Chazi, you might want to turn off your camera. You've been droiding. Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's quite all right.
Yeah.
But the last bit you said, we didn't really get a good hearing of.
What I said, the Rosh Yeshiva, these teachers, I don't blame the students. The mindset, I give an example of asking him like asking a student in some of these yeshivot, like, what was your week like? And they're not aware of, let's say, election, the world, like what's happening in Israel. Their week was, I finished the tractate. And like that is not a healthy bubble to be living. That's not how we move forward. That's not how you bring the Messiah into this world, is by staying silent in your place and seeing yourself as like, this is Ethiopia.
For who?
What do you mean for who? If that's your mindset of what all of Israel should be doing.
Look, it's not one role for every single human being. That's not the Jewish way, right? You have Yeshiva Bachram.
I agree.
I don't want Yeshiva Bachram thinking about U.S. politics, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
You're right. Can they appreciate the Jews that do, though? Can they consider them their people? Can they consider their work holy? Like, is it possible for there to be a politician that's doing God's work and them to appreciate that work and understand that that is him manifesting Torah in his own way? He doesn't need to read this 17-page tshuva. That's not what he needs to be doing now. He needs to plow the land. This guy over here, he's a security guard for your kid's school. So it's not that we feel bad for him that's exactly what he needs to be doing, because that's how you make a people in a community. It's not the people that just read all day. That was the case for 2,000 years, but that's a default. That's not like, great, that's what we want.
First of all, the idea that like everybody was sitting and learning all day, like that's become a silly reconstruction of the past that was never true. And I know at least Rabbi Wine used to really rail against it, and I rail against it too. Um, and this was one of the things that pushed me into the Chabad camp, which is very different from, I mean, certainly the yeshivish, but look, even a lot of the Hasidic dynasties have become yeshivish, right? And
Chabad,
yeah,
Chabad at the very least, and not the very least, while they have their issues with the state of Israel, all Jews are part of Am Yisrael as far as they're concerned. And the mission of reaching out to everyone and seeing them where they are, that is beautiful and amazing.
what and in essence, I would say this is the difference between Hasidus and the rest of Yiddishkeit.
How fortunate are we that Hasidut has taken its holy tentacles and already is fully intertwined with most of our Jewish life too.
Most of our Jewish life, and frankly, I mean, when you go back in time, there was this concept that like really it's only the you know the Am Haaretz wasn't somebody that was in any way chashuv, and that's part of the chiddush of Chassidus. So
I mean,
why are you surprised that like Litvaks are Litvaks?
I guess I'm surprised. I'm surprised and disappointed at the ones that live in Israel. It's
You kind of droided, but I believe you were saying you're disappointed that the ones in Israel still live according to that.
like in what is happening
Chezi,
over
you're
here
droiding. You're droiding.
on the regular highway, but I don't know if I'm joining right now or not.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, there is a minister named Yisrael Porush, and I'm forgetting the exact detail, but they were going to pass this law, but he had an issue with the law, so like he quit being a minister and just be like he quit being a minister for like that month and then became a minister again after the law was done, because then he wasn't taking part of, like, who are you kidding? Like, what are you talking about? Like, if that's the game you're playing with the political thing in Israel, just leave the country. Like, you think this is all nonsense. So what's happening over here? Like, you're going to partake in the political system, use your political power, but deny the political system and the nation. Like, it's just crazy. And it's also, specifically now, it's too much to bear. While I see them as my brothers, obviously, like, with what's going on in this country, it can't be that that's your attitude.
Chezi, it is their attitude.
I know, so it's hard. It's hard for me.
Yeah, I know, because you see things like you want everything to be peace and love, and as long as we talk to each other and everything can be okay, and it's like, no, it can't.
Eventually it will. Shalom.
Eventually, yes. When Mashiach
so don't you have to Don't you have to push towards that though?
Sure, you have to push towards that, but part of pushing towards that is yamin mekarev usmol dochet.
Right. Okay. So exactly. So let's move from here, but while still staying on the topic. So there's a discussion in the Talmud. There's a discussion in the Gemara with regards to b'makom she'balei tshuva omdim, right? Like I'm saying, where the how you say about tshuva in English,
Repentance.
right? So one who repents is at a higher status than one who was, always religious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a discussion if that's true, if that's not true, but I think, and I'm still playing with this in my head, I think there are sort of three versions of repentance in a certain sense. There's like the classic repentance that you and I are aware of. Someone is living a secular life, then realizes I want to live a Jewish life, jumps into the deep end, grows a beard, has a black hat, and leaves all his secular life behind. Right?
Mhm.
That would be model number one. Model two, I'm giving an example of like this Israeli singer, but we could take like there's a guy named Eviatar Banai, but it's someone that comes from like a secular place, becomes religious, but is still trying to. He brings some of the secular with him and trying to sanctify it in a certain way, or put it in sort of like a Jewish perspective. That's sort of like a mixture. I'm exploring if it's possible that the third wave of that is, and this has to do with that verse, with that concept of one that is repentant, is at a higher place, even though he's from a distance. If you look at the discussion there in the Gemara, he's merachok. The secular person that doesn't need to wear the garbs or do that change, rather he knows how to sanctify the secular without that transition. And that's scary though, because that doesn't look like a man necessarily that has a beard or that is acting like you. Rather, it's someone that is understanding and accepting God truly and honestly, but just not the way we were expecting it. And I think that kind of person and that kind of model also needs to be played with, which is that something that's an actual offer? Like, is it what I need to return to? Does it look like that ultra orthodox, or do what I need to return to could look like something very, very different? And
Chezi,
that,
when you have a community,
yeah,
you have to police the boundaries of that community, especially for your kids, right? Like it's nice and cute, right, to have various people who don't necessarily keep Shabbos, etc., right, around. But look, the shluchim of Chabad, like there's been a lot of kids who like ended up falling away in ways that wouldn't have happened if their children had been raised in a normal Haredi environment.
Yeah, but Jacob, but this goes back to my conversation about the imaginal. We can't even think anymore in some ways about like what could be, and if, as you know, there are opinions that the redemption will be brought by Baalei Tshuva and Gerim, right? By those who repented and by the converts, and I include in that the Noahites as well. But like, can we imagine a world where people are like some of these Chabad kids that quote unquote went off the derech or fell off the path? We need to imagine a wider path. And I understand that like that doesn't mean like, oh, well, now these 7 laws don't apply anymore. That's not what I'm saying. And I understand how dangerous or quote unquote slippery slope space you're entering when you're having that discussion. However, I think it's silly for us to think that because we're not living even the model anymore of like what it was like at the temple. Like for us to assume, when Messiah comes, it's all going to be now we're all Lithuanian ultra Orthodox people. And if we're living if in our tradition we have the Elu ve'elu and we have these concepts, so it's an idea that I think again should at least be entertained more with regards to the religious community, Orthodox community, which like it could be that the people from the outside, and I think in the TLC it's a good example of that, which I would believe and you would agree that your presence here has influenced and changed. Well, do you think your presence in the TLC has only strengthened your relationship with Hashem?
Yes, but part
Okay.
of that has been me repenting of like all of the ways that I am so much less Protestant than I was when I started learning so much about Protestant churches. Like I have become more Haredi in many ways because I
But
like I
Jacob, you know you wouldn't be accepted in the Haredi community, correct? I know what you're saying when you said you become more Haredi. But my point exactly is that, which is I can't not see you as a frum Jew. It doesn't matter to me if you kept the Sabbath this week or not, because I see you as frum. And
so
my point is that like and the Jewish world, you're doing this review of Dr. Brown and the rabbi right now, and you're saying, do you think it would be helpful for the rabbi to have you in his ear, giving him like some pointers? And like, no, he's going, and he doesn't know that because he lacks not only the knowledge but the imagination of that kind of conversation. And you, coming from the quote unquote outside, you're a rachok yoter, but you're on the madruga yoter krova because you have brought in more of the world and sanctified it. And that is the tafkid. And if you live in a world, tafkid means that's the role. If we're living in a world where it's only in the 4 cubits of halacha, which was necessary for exile and all there, that is one element of the Jewish experience.
okay, so let me answer you.
And that happened.
So let me answer you. A couple of years ago, for Purim, I went to one of my rabbi's houses, and by mistake, I bought non-mevushal wine. So when I got there, I said to his wife, Rebbitzin, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. You can't open bring out the wine bottle while I'm here because it's not mavushal. And afterwards, she's like talking to me, and she's like, Yaakov, like how can you say that? Like if I open the wine bottle, like you're telling me, don't open the non-mavushal wine. Like, how does that make sense?
Think of
Right?
Acher and Rabbi Meir.
What?
Think of Acher and Rabbi Meir.
Exactly. No, I was going to exactly talk about Rabbi Meir and Acher. Exactly. Right? So he's riding on the horse on Shabbos. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, you can't have someone who's the gargoyle, the one who's on the fringes has to be on the fringes. You can't bring the one that's on the fringes into the camp. Tame yikra.
L'chol zman va'et. First of all, I'm with you.
But still, tame or is it yikare? I forget the verse.
Yikare.
Yikare. Tame Yikare. And he has to be chutz lamachane.
But so Jacob,
and there's
but
a place for the metzora.
Okay, but my claim is different. My claim is not saying that we should lower the bar. That's not my claim.
Well, that's what Kolanim has heard too. These there are standards that surround keeping the mitzvot. There's no way around that. What happens to Shemiras HaMitzvot?
One second. But you would have to ask yourself in an historical context, where are these guidelines start? Because we know, right? We know that in the first temple is different than the second temple, and the first temple is different than the second.
No. Now you're doing the types of things that I've done teshuvah for. Yeah, I also thought historically, the Mishnah couldn't possibly be talking, and then I read 4Q MMT, and I'm like, oh, guess what? The Mishnah actually knew what the Tzedukim and the Karaites were like much better than the history books.
I'm not saying that they didn't know, and I'm not saying that there isn't. Okay, I'll give you a perfect example in this conversation right now. What if I just decide right now I'm going to ignore? I have cousins like this. All the mystical tradition is gobbledygook as far as I'm concerned, right? Am I still considered part of the tradition? Even though I'm ignoring all this?
I would say no.
Okay, but you obviously know that there's plenty of rabbis and people like that they're not interested in that.
Rabbi Yitzchak, what? He beferish says the Zohar is a forgery.
Okay, so how is, I'm just saying, so that's a denial of a whole portion of
and without saying who said it, you remember the email that I got regarding him?
Yes.
Okay.
But okay, so but my point then is that if you're in a place where all the Zohar could be denied and this person is still considered part of your camp, so this person that
yes and no, he's not 100% in the camp.
Who's not in the camp?
Somebody who denies the Zohar. I wouldn't want I wouldn't want my daughter marrying him.
You wouldn't want your daughter marrying him. Okay, so right. I'm glad we're going. What did Hillel and Shammai have? At the end of the day, the daughters and the sons married, and
but that's the difference. That's the difference between the Rebbe and Rabbi Shach, right? And when you're talking about something that's chutz lamachane.
Right. So, but I'm saying you have someone coming outside the camp, right? I'm saying in today's day and age, if you have, and this is also true about the Noahides, and like as you know, in the Orthodox communities, like sort of the fear or the looking at that with suspicion, and I'm talking about like a Jacob. If I'm explaining someone who Jacob is, should I be focusing on but he's not from, and like he doesn't keep this thing and he doesn't keep that thing, or is that not the discussion?
Chezi, if I visit somebody's house, I don't want them opening the non-mavushal wine.
Well, first of all, there's a whole halachic we could get into discussion about stam yeinam and if that's relevant.
Of course, you would be like, what are you talking about? Yaakov, not before Hesia, right? But you know what? Ultimately, they shouldn't be opening the non-mavushal wine.
That's what you think, and the Rebbetzin was trying to give you an attitude of like, no, I think that's wrong.
And I love her, but I don't follow her Piskei Din. I follow the rabbi's Piskei Din. And I'm sure the rabbi agreed with me. The
rabbis that you agree with that accept the Zohar.
The rabbis, the rabbis who, look,
right. Okay.
There is such a thing as a machane.
You're right. I think Jewish. I guess
you can't bring the gargoyles inside.
You're right, but Jews that have suffered tremendously because of division inside should probably learn what it looks like to try to work together.
Chazi, no, this is you not realizing what it means to be chutz lamachane, what it means to have tameh and tahor. Tameh doesn't mean that God didn't create it, that it's completely worthless, right? There's a difference between Shabbos and Chol. There's a difference between tahor and tameh. There, you have to see the difference between tov and ra.
How does Rav Kook say it? Hachol yitkadesh. Shoot, I'm gonna butcher it. Forget it. So you might. I mean, I'm basing this also on Kabbalistic teachings about the klipa, about taking the chol and sanctifying it. And this goes back to the imaginal. What does that look like? What does that look like, taking the secular and taking the profane and making it sacred? And
Chazi, you're walking down a very dangerous road. This is the Sabbatean road. You can't.
You understand? You're right. So you're right. So that's what they told Maimonides, and they burnt his books, and that's what they told the Ramchal, and they chased him and his family into the field and out of his house. And that's what I'm saying. That just you're saying all the people that said you can't do this, you read their books now and praise them.
Hold on. I think the people who said about Maimonides and about the Ramchal were wrong.
Yeah.
And the one and the Keren Hagra was wrong, right?
But these are heavy hitters. They know what they're talking about.
Yes, and but you know what? It's possible to be wrong, right?
Right.
But that's very different from what you're doing.
First of all, I'm not doing anything. First of all, I'm not doing anything. I don't have a movement. Okay, I'm not like Icarus right now. That's not. I'm saying that the tremendous innovation that the Baal Shem Tov did, right? And when he gets told, right, that she'afutzu ma'ayonecha, when everyone's going to know your Torah, right? That was denied. That's heresy. Don't teach the Torah. It's idol worship. It's craziness. So the harshest words were used about things that you and I, and this goes. Like how fortunate we are that we live in worlds that we already have that in our toolkit.
Chazi, you are again equating mistakes with ever saying something is wrong.
No. I'm telling you. I'm saying that the scale of novelty and that the Baal Shem Tov introduced, right, is not so different than the scale I'm talking about. And I'm not giving you a Mishnah Sdura. I'm just telling you that is it so crazy for us to look at someone like a Jacob and not our knee-jerk reaction shouldn't be that this is someone that's outside the Machaneh. I didn't say that he doesn't need to do work. I didn't say that we all need to constantly inspire for more. I'm saying at this point of our history, should we see this person as like, no, he's outside the Machaneh, or you could even use the term a gargoyle or a fringe within the Machaneh, right? That's still part of the structure. Not as like, oh, we pray for his soul. One day he'll repent, or like, don't talk to that person. He's dangerous.
Chazi, some people are dangerous.
I don't think you are.
Maybe I'm not dangerous, but at the same time, it's Dino Kegoy.
So that's my point is like, how are you jumping from like me saying like the path should be a little more wide to like, no, I'm considered a Gentile. It's like why like
halacha is halacha, Chazi.
But what about I don't know, what about the verses of Kol Kofer B'Avodah Zarah Kiyehudi? Why is that not enough?
In Shulchan Aruch it says Hamechalel Shabbat Kofer Beikar V'Dino Kegoy Bechol Devarim.
You're right. So Bechol Devarim. That's what he said. So I guess like what you're saying is, I'm going to give you an extreme example right now. You went to the Rebbitzin and said, like, I know you feel comfortable with this. I'm not. So it's going to be at 120, please, God. God's looking at you. And he's like, you know what? God comes and says, that's not what I meant. You're like, no, but that's what the Shulchan Aruch said. So, like, what do you know?
B'shamayim hi, Chazi. Lo b'shamayim hi.
Great. So that's what you're looking for. I'm going to be standing there on the side looking at him like he doesn't mean it. You know, Jacob, it's just his greatest hits. Take him in.
Even if a Baskol says it's lo b'shamayim hi.
Right. So I'm not claiming.
And
I look.
Hieronymus, I mean, maybe privately one day we'll talk about exactly what we were saying regarding somebody who doesn't believe in the Kabbalah. But I would prefer my if I had a daughter that she wouldn't marry such a person.
I would tell Kalanimus that King Solomon, right? I mean, first of all, there's clearly a huge discussion in the Talmud, right? Whether or not these certain books could even make it in, they can be part of the Bible canonization, right? Do we want it inside? And the reason they were nervous about this is because they understood the difficulties. And we see them clearly all in Shira Shirim, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Song of Songs. You also see it in Ezekiel, but the heavy hitters are the three that Solomon wrote, which of course has to do with the fact that he asks for God for chokhmah. And there are deep teachings over there that are alluding to many of the Kabbalistic ideas. Now, to deny these things is, again, like, I think it's chaval and it's silly. And there's so much also to attach yourself to. What is Rabbi Akiva doing when he's interpreting the shapes of the letters? What do you like? What's happening?
Chezi, you're avoiding the main thing. Kalanimus says the Besh didn't step out of the bounds of halacha. That was the standard, and those outside are outside.
What are you talking about? What is he saying right now? There's plenty of people that think what he was doing was crazy, or the teachings that he was teaching.
Chezi, they were wrong.
But 1 second, they were wrong. He just said he didn't go out the bounds of halacha. Who's halacha? Defined by who?
Halacha is as defined by halacha.
At that time, because the Rambam, according to many, did leave the bounds of halacha. And the Ramchal left the bounds of halacha.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
He's coming and saying the Baal Shem Tov, right?
Yeah, what Chas v'shalom, the Rambam was outside of halacha? How? Who?
Do you know that many people say that the way you speak about God, the way the Hasidim do, is considered idol worship?
Okay, they're wrong.
So that would be considered outside the bounds of halacha.
Chezi. So this is the difference between realizing what we're done and hanistarot la'Hashem Elokeinu, right? We don't do a chakira of someone's emunot v'deot. We do it of their actions. And if a person is mechalal Shabbat, the person is mechalal Shabbat.
But you're giving me one example of chilul Shabbat. There's another 613 mitzvahs. One of them is how you pray. One of them come and say, if you're praying that long and you're doing hitbodedut and yichidut, that's not tefillah. That's
Chazi, you know the difference between what you're talking about and what I'm talking about. You know the difference between what you're talking about and what I'm talking about.
But if to be fair, I didn't come and say right now that you don't have to keep any of the commandments, and you should still be considered a religious person. I'm saying, with our view of history also, knowing that there was never a period where everyone's religious. This is a period where more Torah is happening before. We want to avoid division. We know so much more right now. We also know that, like you just said, because of the mistakes of the past, to be more careful when judging someone, when coming out against someone. So now if you have, in this unique world that we have today, where there's even Noahides, and you have a character like a Jacob, right, who is loving God, fearing God, learning more about God, trying to understand and have a conversation with other of God's creations as well. Is this a person that we want to say no, but
and
he's very
and
nice. He's a
and
good guy.
and a kofer beikar and a choter machti and a ochel nevelot v'shratzim and
Right.
over begimel chamorot.
By the way, you could say, let's say all those are true. Okay, and should he be ostracized?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying, well, why don't you tell? Really, if you think about it, you're like, I'm saying, even Rabbi Mullet is a problem because he is entertaining this stream.
Chazi, you're being
But
silly.
but Jacob, but if you think you're Choteu Machti, how would you allow any rabbi to partake in your conversations?
Good question.
How would you allow them even to speak? Like, but clearly Rabbi Mullet doesn't think that. He doesn't think you're Choteu Machti, and Yosef
Okay,
doesn't think you're Choteu
I
Machti.
was exaggerating a tiny bit when I said a chotel machti. Hashem should have Rahmanas on me. The fact is, I don't think I'm even a Mechal Shabbos Befar Hesia because I don't do it Befar Hesia. I'm not Mechal Shabbos Befar Hesia. I'm a Mechal Shabbos, but I'm a Mechal Shabbos.
And you mechal it in the most beautiful, gorgeous, holy way.
GN says, "Man, I've never seen a Chazi this ticked off. I don't even understand what you guys are talking about." You haven't watched enough of this. We used to do this much more when we had time. We used to do a lot more of this.
Yeah, and Jacob and I are not fighting. We love each other. It's all good. This is actually like a very. I don't think it's. I'm not ticked off at all. I'm having everything's great. Tell me a little about this.
We're steiging. It's like being back in the base midrash.
This is what winning looks like. Well, who was this Jonathan guy?
He apparently he's a YouTuber. I mean, but he gets kicked off of YouTube a lot. He's a very interesting guy. Yeah, it's funny. He was saying how he started looking into Yiddishkeit and he learned. He actually knew a lot more. Like he was talking about Musar and
he's Jewish.
Rambam. Yeah, he's Jewish. And he's a Zionist, Hashem Yerachim Aleinu. And he was making fun of Kalanimus for being a Satmar because Satmar hate Israel and they're not really Jewish because they dress like.
Is Kalanimus Satmar?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
Oh wow, I did not know that.
Kalanimus is Satmar, yeah.
Man, oh man.
The number of non-Zionists has doubled in this area. Columbus says it was quite enjoyable. Yeah, watching a guy who was talking about making porn movies, telling Colonimus he's not really Jewish.
Didn't a rabbi just buy buy Pornhub or something?
A reform rabbi, a reform, whatever you call them, rabbit is involved in the company that owned Pornhub. I think they eventually sold it, but yes, he's been Michal al Shem Shemayim worse than I ever have.
One second. Why did he buy it though? Is his move to try to shut it down or?
No, to try to make it more ethical, he says.
Well, it only happens by shutting it down.
Yeah, I agree. CW says he was essentially a Jewish Grim Grizz. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, he's a lawyer for the parent, and he wasn't even he was never actually a rabbi. But he was ordained by the Deformed. So yeah.
Wait, why is CW? I was going to try to say that in Hebrew, but I can't. Why is CW back?
Yeah, CW, why are you back? Who
I'm
left you
happy.
back?
We've missed you. And I saw that picture from Gar sweating. Look at that. Look at those pants he has on. Those pleats, those hammer pants. I'm loving it.
He wears that exact outfit every single day in different colors. He has 7 different colors, and he wears it every day. You and see, if you were to see his house, you would love his house.
Tom Ford, the designer, also says he likes having his uniform, which is just like a black suit, white shirt. Now in Israel, I would love to do that as well, but if I did that, that would immediately make
you a rabbi. When you said I'm gonna say something to make you mad, I thought you were gonna tell me you're not gonna get smicha.
I told. Did I tell you this? What I told Yosef I want to do? That I want to get smicha through the Hartman Institute. So Yosef and I were joking about that. That would be like the best troll. The country, like, hey. But it's a 3-year program, and I can't commit to it right now. After I left Israel, like I actually went on site. I'm like, what do they want for me to do this? Let's see. If it would be a year, I think it'd be worth a joke.
Why don't you just ask Rabbi Sherky to give you a smicha for Hilchot B'nai Noach?
Hilchot B'nai Noach? Smicha for Hilchot B'nai Noach? That's interesting. I didn't think about that. Just for do that, like become like a Noahide rabbi specifically?
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm actually trying to pull off something something pretty cool with Rabbi Shirky. So now that the contract's signed, I can talk about it. Ben Shapiro, his team reached out to me. He is coming here now he's going to be here now for the next few weeks. And he wants to still be filming, but he doesn't want to be filming in his house. His kids and his wife. So he's been looking for like a beautiful place to be able to have to film. And they said, we saw your houses and we want to film in one of them. In one of these houses, we want to film. And they offered like 10 grand sort of for like, like finding. I'm like, skip the money. I want Ben to have a 20-minute meeting with Rabbi Shirky about the Noahides. And they said that they can't promise, but they'll see what they could do. And we'll see. I'm hoping that's going to go down.
For $10,000, he can't sit down with Rabbi Shirky? How much does he charge?
I don't think anyone even spoke to him, but by the way, to Ben about this yet. Their attitude is like, like last year he was here, he had like a lot of time. Other time he was like more nervous and he had less time, and like he doesn't want to be like committed to anything, basically. So I guess it's a little annoying because in my mind, I'm like, isn't this like a huge win? You guys are not paying anything for the place, but I don't know. That's his team. I didn't talk to Benny Boy. They're like, oh, you could go, you could see, you could take a picture. I'm like, I don't need a picture with little Benny Boy. I want him to specifically also, he had the conversation with with Aquinas, and they actually talk about the Noahides there towards the end. So I thought that could be like interesting, but we'll see. And I offered Rev Shirky, I'm like, I think you could do a great job, but if you want me to be there to like, to translate anything, but we'll see. Okay. We'll see what happens. But I think that would be pretty cool. I mean, what they said is like maybe he'll meet with him, and like if he's interested, he might follow up and have like a longer conversation. But I don't know.
It could be Ben. What you asked for? What? How long? Half an hour?
Yeah, 20 minutes, half an hour. Sit down, talk. I said all your gear's already there, like it's in the house. So like, why not just?
Hold on. You wanted a taped thing?
Ideally, I want it taped, but if not, then just talk.
Yeah, taped, that's different.
Yeah, that's
because first they have to see who this Rabbi Shirky thing is. Like, knowing you could have gotten that guy whose name I don't want to talk about.
Who?
Ginsburg.
Oh, Ginsburg. I thought you meant Rabbi Harry Rosenberg, not Rabbi Harry.
I don't know who Rabbi Harry Rosenberg is, and I'm guessing I don't want to know who Rabbi Harry Rosenberg is.
He's a friend of mine that works heavily with the Lost Tribes.
Oh, the ginger.
The ginger.
I he's he has no idea how much damage he did with that the discussion he had. He has no clue how much damage he did with that discussion.
I can't remember. This was the one with like the Black Israelites or
Yeah, the black supremacists. Yeah. Like he doesn't even comprehend how much damage he did with that discussion.
yeah, I don't know if that's like what he should be focusing his time on. Maybe he should just be wicking with the Lost Tribes. How was the wedding?
Baruch Hashem, it was beautiful. I got to talk to Paul Antleitner for a bit. I don't know if you even know who he is. He's one of the bigger YouTube pastors around here. That's what I was going to say about CW. He's not back because I'm not back. I'm not part of this little corner. So like, yeah, this doesn't count. This is the Jordan Peterson sphere. Yeah.
Got you. Dang, this is not. I got you.
So CW is completely is completely.
But if I recall correctly, it was like due to like to political stuff. Like he felt like there's no room for the left in the TLC or something.
CW?
Am I wrong? Wasn't there like an issue with like how people were talking about like trans people that upset him? I don't know. I can't remember right now. I know something upset him. Something ticked him off about like the attitudes of people in the TLC.
I mean, if that's his problem, then he should kind of like. I should be the last channel he gets on. Do you know this Jacques Adnet guy?
Tell him about Jacques Adnet. No, I don't know. Tell me. Teach me. Illuminate.
I have no idea. So you must have seen the picture of me in CW's office.
The Red Cave?
Yes, the Red Cave. The desk is an original Jacques Adnet.
Oh, I got you. Okay, now this is putting it into context. I'm thinking about some sort of philosopher that I need to be finding, but okay.
No. So I am sure if you visited CW's house, you would have appreciated both his cars and his furniture and his clothes a lot more than I do.
All I care about is what's in his soul.
And his library and his prayer closet. I have to say, his prayer closet was impressive. It's filled with the works of Rav Soloveitchik.
For real?
For real.
So why do you guys have it? I'm saying, why do you guys have a discussion about Rav Soloveitchik?
Because he knows a lot more about Rav Soloveitchik than I do.
Does he know about like the whole like Briskers in general, like Rav Aaron Soloveitchik is more controversial?
No, that's the funny thing. So like CW, you know, all the stuff that we like kind of skip over with the Rav, like he talks about Kierkegaard or whatever, and we're like, oh, that's cute, right? Like CW knows all the details about all the footnotes everybody skips over. And he doesn't know anything about the stuff we actually read the Rav for.
When did you get into it?
So I told him, so like CW, anything Kierkegaard, like apparently CW had like come up by the name Rav Soloveitchik when people were discussing Kierkegaard.
Well, it's just fear and trembling.
What?
It's just really about fear and trembling.
I I don't know.
In Rav Soloveitchik's discussion with regards to Kierkegaard, he doesn't go through all of Kierkegaard's. I mean, he focuses on specific works of Kierkegaard. But yeah, okay. So
CW was telling me that the Rav knows Kierkegaard better than Barth, who apparently never read Kierkegaard.
the Rav Soloveitchik knew a tremendous amount of stuff on a tremendous amount of people, and unfortunately, we no longer have those types of titans anymore.
Well, we have the Yanuka.
We have the who was talking about the Yanuka? A client of mine actually was like fascinated, and he's next trip he wants to have him over at his house. You know what, Jacob? I don't know. Maybe that goes down. If he wants to do like this whole big extravaganza of having the Yanuka, would you travel to Canada to see him?
Sure.
All right. So if it goes down, I'll tell him to send you an invite.
Okay, this will be interesting.
Over with like an orchestra and stuff. I don't know.
Wow, he's having a whole thing for the Yanuka Chutz La'aretz? Does the Yanuka go Chutz La'aretz?
You know, Rev. Right, Harry Rosenberg has a whole. I told you what his story with the Yanuka, right? I told you what his story with the Yanuka.
Oh yeah, you did tell me, yeah.
All right, so
I don't know a lot of Haredi Rabbanim who regularly leave. I mean, he might go to raise money. Yeah,
right.
Your sound isn't very good.
Your sound isn't very clear. No, 1 second. I have a better idea then. I'll do this like this.
And my summary of Rabbi Harry Rosenberg is he's a very nice yeshiva bacher who he's a very nice kollel what do you call people who study in kollel?
A kollelnik?
Yeah, whatever. Who should have stayed in kollel and not Avrech, that's it. Yeah, he's an Avrech. He's an Avrech who thought it was a good idea to go on one of the most anti-Semitic black supremacist channels on YouTube, and say things which the anti-Semites will take as pure confirmation of all the horrible things they believe about Yidden. Yeah.
Yeah, he is someone that he's on his own journey, but he, real fascinating stories, meeting with like Taliban people that like have like Jewish roots, doing a lot of work with a lot of communities in the States, like Haredi communities with deep trauma. He does like a lot of like he's a guide for psychedelic trips and things like that to help people.
It's the psychedelics. Okay. I was wondering how he lost his mind.
Yeah, that's the one route that like I still haven't got my my wife on board yet.
Your wife, Ezer Kenegdo.
I think I'll get her though, eventually.
Ezer Kenegdo.
I understand the concerns, but one wants to dig deeper. One wants to know more.
So daven harder, learn more Torah.
Well, this goes back to the imaginal, right? Like I want to return to a place where we could imagine as the prophets did.
Put on Rabbeinu Tam's.
Put on Rabbeinu Tam's. Cal asks, if you don't mind me asking, have you tried any? No, I have not tried any psychedelics. I do indulge myself with marijuana, though. However, it's been a long time since I had like a high adventure. Seeing the colors, and so you've built up a tolerance for it. But as Jacob knows, on Shabbat, being like in that mindset with the music around me and the prayers, and I'm generally trying to learn something as well. It's all a very beautiful moment and environment and experience that I like having, and I like weaving from sitting next to my son, seeing him like read next to me, and that whole emotional excitement of like having a child and what that means in the context of him sitting next to me in the synagogue, in the context of me reading a word about God in this book that I'm reading that is making me feel even more connected. At the same time, also reading this verse from the prayer. So it's I see it as a very useful tool if used properly, not for kids.
CW says Chezi might be interested in Richard Kroner's The Religious Function of Imagination.
I'm writing it down.
CW, you should jump on. I took him to like the most Hamish Hasidish shul in all of Minneapolis. Lots of old altar cockers making jokes before davening, after davening. It was, and I think Chezi liked it. We went for a shacharis on Friday morning.
Again, where'd you daven?
It wasn't an official Chabad. It's like an old shul. I think it's called Adat Israel or something.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a small little, like, I there were like 15 guys there, right? And a few youngalites, bunch of old men, right? For shacharis. It was cute. It was cute. CW says very moving experience.
I wonder what, like, I remember talking to Trey about it when he came to the synagogue with me,
Mm-hmm.
and he said he appreciated the swell, I think he called it, when like everyone sort of gets together. I wonder what that experience was for him. Unfortunately, in Trey's style, he missed our lunch.
Well, you told him dinner, and you didn't tell him.
Showed him the message as well. It didn't say dinner at all. He realized that it was a mistake. It's okay. No one's mad. I just would have loved to have him over for a meal. That's it. And I hope when if Jonathan comes, I really hope he could come as well. Yeah, I mean, it's really an invitation to many people in the TLC. Like, it would be fantastic to see people in real life over here and spend some time with them in the Holy Land. But
I don't know what it's going to be like to actually meet you. How tall are you?
6 feet.
Wow. Okay. So you're taller than I am.
I'm taller than you are, but shorter spiritually.
A lot less weight. That's for sure.
So we have like the metric system. It's different. You got to carry the one. It's a whole thing. But I am looking forward to. I don't know. I have like this weird image of. I still somehow see everyone ending up here in Jerusalem, but not just because like we're all going to the temple one day, but which would be fantastic. But I don't know. I still see TLC's roads eventually making its way to the Holy City.
I really wish you would meet my cousin. You should really make an effort to meet my cousin. He is
RBS.
What?
Where does he live?
Yeah, RBS. Yeah.
So that's where I'm unfortunately living right now.
You should make an effort to meet my cousin.
Sure. Send me his info again. I'll reach out. I have no problem doing that.
He is one of these people who he is one of these people who like um, he's just an incredible person. Did I tell you about his honors thesis at Brown University?
No.
So he read the Rav in German. He read some Kyoto school philosopher in I don't know which are RBS, but in Japanese, and he wrote an honors thesis comparing their philosophies.
Mm-hmm.
And like when he was in Los Angeles, he used to speak at Seudah Shlishit in Beverly Hills. People would walk an hour to come hear him speak for Seudah Shlishit. And he refuses to teach Torah because he feels he said a lot of stupid things when he was younger, and he doesn't want to say anything stupid. Like you don't understand. He's like Tzaddik Yesod Olam. He's like the most amazing soul. You like. I love this man like you wouldn't believe. He's like he's mamish a tzaddik, mamish like neshama, like he it's a neshama from Atzilut. He comes from a different world.
Mm-hmm.
He really does.
He's one of the Lamas of Tzaddikim.
I could easily believe it. Yes.
He's a good runner-up.
What?
Like he's a good runner-up, you're saying.
Look, I don't know if a Lamed Vavnik can be a Baal Tshuva. He came from a not very religious background.
How can Jacob, what is that even sentence? A Lamed Vavnik can't be a Baal Tshuva? What? We just had a whole discussion about how they're closer.
Yeah, but Lamed Vav is Lamed Vav.
No.
Lamed Vav is there in case there's no one else. Like it's like there's an inyan of Lamed Vav that's very different. Barata Tzadikim. It's a Lamed Vavnik is a bria. It's a different bria. Like he doesn't have a Lamed Vavnik doesn't have Bechira in the same way as the rest of us. He can't. So I don't know if you can say that this cousin of mine is a Lamed Vavnik, but he's you don't understand. Every single minute by him, every minute is like he doesn't turn off. He's like he's always like Hakadosh Baruch Hu every minute. Like he just doesn't turn off.
You mean, yeah, one wants to do his best to try to live his life that way, that you could see B'chol drachecha de'ehu, right? In all your ways, you should know.
Right, but there's a minute you lose your anava, you lose your concentration, you become angry. Like he doesn't do that. He's like constant.
I mean, this is always a question with these people. Can they come down from the mountain or from the cave and also interact with us, lowly people? We spoke about this in the past, that this is where Enoch goes wrong, and where ultimately Noah also falters, and which is then corrected by Abraham / Moses, which were people that at all times, at all places.
Right.
See that with, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, you read the emails where I was chewing him out, trying to bring him down from the mountain. Yeah, he's one of those guys up in the mountains. You know, it's like trying to bring him back into like to dance at a wedding. Like that's a mitzvah he has trouble doing.
The CW's line of here, he has the shining face, right? So Moses comes down from the mountain and his face is glowing. Ki karan or panav, right? Which obviously Michelangelo misunderstood for horns.
Yeah.
Famous, beautiful Moses statue in Rome, which I recommend people go see. They say Michelangelo himself, after he finished building it, sculpting it, threw his chisel on it and yelled like "speak" or "rise." Like it looked so real, like he wanted, like whatever. Anyways, when Moses comes down and has to veil his face, though, right? In a certain sense, it's not integrating well, right, with the people because it's too much for them.
My cousin, the one word everybody uses for him is he's intense. He's incredibly intense. Like I would not suggest you ask him to babysit your kids, right? He's just too intense.
Wait, he's not a chiller?
Yeah, he doesn't chill.
He doesn't do chilling?
No, he doesn't do chilling.
Yeah, so I mean, according to some of the Mefarshim, right? Hanoch, Enoch attempts to interact with the people, but gets so frustrated with their level where he basically like says like I can't do this, and God removes him. That is the grace he's doing for Enoch. He's basically saying like I get it that this is like a mismatch, like this is not working with you and these people over here, so you got to go. And then with Noah, and their names in Hebrew also allude to education, to teaching, also messes us up, right? When God tells them about the flood, there isn't, or at least this is what the Zohar says, there isn't a request. Wait, what about the other people? There's like, are me and my family going to be safe? Yes. He's like, all right. And God was hoping for a little of that Abraham, Sodom and Gomorrah conversation, or Moses and the golden calf conversation, where God gets challenged. And I think that's
we lost Chazi. Somebody's calling him. How come he didn't give Moshe that option? Because Moshe was nitzachon. Okay. We lost Chazi. I have been streaming for way too long. Is Chazi coming back? I have no idea what's going on with Chazi. Okay. For today, I think I am going to end. Chazi's back. I was about to turn off the stream, but Chazi's back. And Colonimus has a question for Chazi. Chazi's not back. Chazi is back. Chazi is gone. Is Chazi going to come back? I don't know. Okay, people. I think I am going to... Chazi's back.
okay. Sorry about that. Real life.
Real life? How dare you have a real life? Kalanos had a question. How come he didn't give Moshe that option?
What option?
Of being taken away from the world like Chanoch.
Moses, first of all, is a lot more integrated, and he gives them a better option. He's like, come, I'll wipe them out, and I'll start again from you.
By the way, don't get like my cousin wrong. He's not some sort of like ascetic. Well, mostly he's not some sort of ascetic. Meet him. He's an amazing guy, and I'm sure over the years he's become even more amazing. Yeah. Yeah, to be removed, Moshe practically begged for it. He did.
What? Be removed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to mecheni na mesifrecha, right? Get me in. That's a larger context of your book, your concept, your universe. I'm interested here for the real, not for this other game you're playing where you're just like wiping them all out because they messed up. And this, I mean, and God himself, as we spoke about this tension is again brought out with Moses' time machine, right? When God takes him to see Rabbi Akiva, takes him to the future, and then he sees what happens to Rabbi Akiva. And we know the famous things that the angels say and what God repeats to the angels, right? And says, silence. God wants to see that tension play out. And Moses is also telling God, like, if you're not here to see the tension play out, then remove me from your book. Otherwise, it's not real. It's not life. I'm talking about when Bnei Israel with the Slav, Eric, what? You see his question over here?
We're talking about with the Slav, if I recall correctly.
The Slav. Okay.
Not Mecheni Mesifrecha.
Not Mecheni Mesifrecha. Oh, when
what happened with the Slav?
He's just tired with like the bitching of the Israelites. By the way, I mean, I'm saying this is also why Moses doesn't go into Israel, which I don't see as a punishment. I actually see that is the Enoch move, by the way. There you go. That is the Enoch move. He doesn't go into Israel because God realizes, bro, you just lost your shit with regards to like the water situation over here and hit the stone. And I know you're Moses and everything, but like going into this land, it's a lot of itty bitty stuff. Build a fence, do this. He can't take that. It's going to be 4 cubits. Like that's not, you and I, Moses, are playing at a different level. And you were up with me. You didn't drink for 40 days and 40 nights. And your world and your mindset doesn't have to be focused right now about like a Carmelite or the Eruv. That's not your world. And there's a fascinating story of the death of Moses. And I'll leave you on this. Moses is going to die. It's time. And he starts giving God a problem about this. And he's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to die. Let me go into Israel. And God keeps on saying, no, you're not going into Israel. Let me go like a bird. Let me this. Let me go that. No, God says it's not happening. Then Moses says, okay, let me go in as Joshua's student. Right? And God says, okay, I'll allow for that. You could do that. But then there's a moment where God comes and speaks to Joshua and Moses can't hear. And Moses says like, no, forget that. Like, I know I really want to go into Israel, but not having my relationship with you that's too intense. Like I'm not that deal. So God says, okay, so it's over. It's done. It's time to go. And Moses starts saying, you know what? I'm flipping Moses. I'm just going to start praying. And God's like, oh crap, this is not good. Okay. Right. So Moses starts praying and God speaks. Well, Moses goes to the mountains and says, pray for me. And the mountain says like, but I can't, what about God? And to the waters. And then Moses starts praying and God says, quickly close the gates of heaven, right? Don't let his prayers, if they reach my throne, I won't be able to say no, which is so beautiful also in a certain sense. But, so the gates are closing and Moses' prayers turn into a sword and they break through the gates. And then God sees it's getting more serious. I have to send in the security guards. So he sends in different angels. And he says, I think he goes to Gabriel. He's like, go talk to him. He's like, I can't go. It's like Moses, the guy that walked around like the angels, like, I can't do this. He sends another one. He says, like, Moses, he was my student. I taught him in heaven. Like, don't make me do that. So God's like, okay, all you guys are tiptoeing around this. Where's my boy Samael, right? Like, or the angel of death or Satan or like, this concept. And go get.
You don't have to say the word.
That's what's bothering you? 3 years into a Christian stream, I'm mentioning your name. All right, Jacob. So this angel gets very excited. He's like, finally, I'm gonna get this dude. Like, right, this is the soul I've been after. So he comes down and he sees this person glowing. And he gets a little nervous because this doesn't look like a regular Joe. And he asks him, he says, Ben Amram Ata, or he says, who are you? And he says, I'm the son of Amram. And he tells the angel, he's like, get out of here. He's like, well, I can't get out of here. Like, he's speaking respectfully to Moses. He's like, well, I can't get out of here. Our master has told me to bring you home. So he starts fighting with this angel of death, and he grabs him by his horns that apparently he has, and he throws him like this crazy distance. And eventually God comes in and says, all right, I will take you myself. And Moses says, okay, if you come get me, I'll come. So these other angels come down, and they, I'm getting emotional, I'm sorry. They come down and they cover Moses with tachrichim, like it's sort of like a prayer shawl.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think it's a few angels come down to cover his feet, and a few angels come down to cover his face. And then God comes down and says, come, tells the soul to come. And then the soul responds to God and says, when you made me, I told you not to bring me into this world. And you told me that if I come, you'll put me in the holiest place. And I am here now. Don't make me leave. This is the holiest place. Don't make me leave him. And God says, I promise you, you'll have your place with me under my throne. You'll be with me. And the soul asks God to promise this, and God says yes. And then God comes and kisses Moses, and sort of like the breath of life, but it's the reverse, right? He takes back the soul, but it had to be sort of as intimate as the creation itself. That's what Moses' soul demanded.
This is from the Midrash or from the Talmud?
This is from the Midrash. But on that note, I leave you guys.
Good night, my dear friend.
Take care.
Okay. Where were we? Yeah, Don. But he still brings them to enlightenment. He gave them the Torah. He still acts as a teacher, even though he's fed up with them at many points. He beats him with a stick. Malach HaMaves loses one of his many eyes. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. I will leave you with the second good night for tonight. I'm going to use host's prerogative to put the Reverend Parcells to bed because he does need to get up in the morning.
Sorry, Reverend. Thank you.
But before he goes, I have a question. Let's say, God forbid, that I were to burn somebody at the stake for not being a Trinitarian. And I did not repent of that. Is that a salvation issue?
Sometimes Jacob takes that devil's advocate thing too
Isn't
far.
there a proverb that says something like, don't answer a fool according to his folly?
But there's a proverb that says, answer a fool according to his folly.
There is. Exactly right. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine, which of those was applicable in this situation as I go. So, but anyhow, good.
Thank you, Reverend.
Good to
Thank
chat
you.
with you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
The